that bombshell, it just leaves you completely numb. I literally could not believe my ears. I could not believe what she just said.
Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I am your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE through an ancestry DNA test that changed my life forever. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected or Non-Paternal Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. And welcome to episode 136. If you are a new NPE, I would like to mention a support group online that has been helpful to me at times. I have mentioned them before. They are on Facebook, so you would need to have a Facebook profile. It is called Togetherness Heals, NPE Only. And it might be difficult to find this. I believe it's a private Facebook group, and you have to be an NPE or late discovery adoptee or a donor-conceived individual to join. It is moderated by Erin Cosentino. I have found this group to be pretty loving and supportive, and they just allow NPEs to share whatever it is that they are currently going through, any emotion they're having, whether it's anger, sadness, or excitement, maybe good news that they want to share. There doesn't appear to be a lot of the should statements that sometimes I hear. You should do this, you should feel that way. It just allows NPEs the space to process whatever they're going through. So thank you to this group. I don't participate myself. I'm more of a lurker. I like to read. I like to but I have found it to be moderated very well. Of course, it's open to all NPEs comments, so you will get people's opinions on there, and maybe they're not always helpful, but it is a supportive place to go. So if you are a new NPE listening to this podcast and you're looking for another resource, I would suggest checking out Togetherness Heals, NPE Only, the Facebook group. On this podcast, we listen to NPEs share their story and where they are at currently in their NPE story. And today I'm speaking with Simone. Hi, Simone.
Hi, Lily.
Thank you for carving time out this evening to share your story today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to share.
And you are probably, 6 hours ahead of me?
I am, yes. Maybe longer. I think it's 8, maybe 8 hours.
Oh, gosh. Well,
it's
evening
night.
time.
Yeah, it's Friday night.
Friday night. Well, I appreciate you sharing with me today, and we will go ahead and get right into your story today.
Sure.
So why don't you tell me about your family of origin, any of your background story, and we will take it from there.
Oh, no. Okay. So as my name, as you said, is Simone. I'll tell you how old I am. I'm 57, and I found my NPE status at the age of 43. So I've been living with it for quite a while now. I grew up in southwest London, quite a nice suburb, lovely little part of London, with my Irish mum, my dad, and my 2 sisters. My mother was a country girl. She grew up on a farm in very rural Ireland. She lived there all her life till her sort of early 20s, and she fell in love with a local man. This local man was a little bit of a rogue. His own mother she knew that my mum liked him a lot, and she advised her not to marry him. He wasn't marriage material. Anyway, he went to England looking for work, and this was in the 1950s. My mum followed him over. They ended up together and had to get married. There was a baby on the way. So my mum got married. They had a daughter, and 3 to 4 years later, they then had a son. The marriage was not happy. My mum told me this. I grew up knowing this. My mum said, he would be watchful of her, where's she going, what's she doing, who's she talking to, that kind of thing. So my mum felt pretty trapped. Now, the rest of the story are things that I've had to put together as over the years. These things have been like a jigsaw. As everyone knows, you've got to piece these bits of truth or untruths together yourself. My mother was pregnant with me. She has 2 young children. The marriage is unhappy, and she reaches out to her sister, who lives in the north of England, which is a good few hours away from London. She reached out and said, I need help with my children. I don't want to put them into care. I'm asking for help from you. Now, her sister was married and didn't have any children, and her sister was happy to look after the youngest child, who was around 3.5. She came down to London. Obviously, my mother was pregnant with me, but my mother kept this secret. She kept this hidden from her sister. She handed over her son, and this was supposed to be a temporary arrangement. And she said, can you look after him? And she said that she was happy to take him. I understand that my mother moved from one area of London, expecting me with her younger daughter, who was around 7 or 8 at that time, and they moved areas. My mother went on to have me, and we lived in this apartment, I know you'd say apartment, southwest London. And that was life like that for a while. I was always told that when I was around 8 months old, my sister got talking to a local postman. The postman met my mum and asked my mother out on a date. He asked her out on a date. He didn't think that she would go, and she did. My mum was an Irish Catholic. She didn't drink, she didn't smoke. But he asked her out, and she went. And they got along well, and they started a relationship. And that man brought me up. And I obviously didn't know that wasn't my parent. So I grew up with him as my father, and he was a good man. We moved into a very small, tiny little place to live. There's me, my mum and dad, and my older sister. My mum and dad went on 4 years later to have a daughter of their own. So I'm effectively in that family group, a middle child. We didn't have a lot of money. Life was pretty poor, to be honest. It was okay. It was a safe home to a point. My school was across the road from where I lived. I had a lot of convenience. I was a pretty quiet and shy child. As I grew up, I got quite sort of chatty. I had lots of little friendship groups, and my 2 siblings were quite different in character. And with NPEs, you look back and you go, that's why I'm like this, and that's why they're like that. You see these differences are really magnified as you learn your truth as such when you're older. Life was like that for a good few years. Unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was around 20, and she moved areas. She moved to an area that was basically more able to sort of help her with a condition as it was going to progress, and she would inevitably end up in a wheelchair. I my older sister emigrated to America, where she still lives. And when I was 21, I went over to live with her and I got a job as a nanny. And that was fun. It was a great time of life. It was really good. But after 8 months, I missed London and I wanted to come home. My dad, let me call him my dad, who brought me up, sorry, he was in a very bad hit and run and was in hospital. So I was in America trying to phone home, trying to get to him. I could never get hold of him. And I kept phoning my mum and saying, I can't reach him, what's happened? And my mum wouldn't tell me. And that's one of those big clues that tells me my mum could keep a secret. I know it was to protect me and not worry me, but I wanted to know how he was, and I was anxious about him. And pretty much one of the reasons why I wanted to come back to England was because I wanted to know what was going on. Anyway, he was thankfully okay. He was fine. He did have broken bones, but he got fixed. He was fine in the end, thank God. He did say to me one evening, he said, when I was in hospital, I thought I was going to die, and I wrote 2 letters, one to you and one to your sister, my younger sister. And he said, do you want to read it? And I said, no, I would not want to read something that would upset me. I did read that letter for a long time after he passed away. So I went to live in a place called Jersey, a small island, and I met my husband. See, we obviously had got engaged, we got married. My relationship with my sister in America became very dysfunctional, and she kind of had lost her place. Because growing up with her, I worshipped her, I adored her, I looked up to her. She was very worldly to me. I effectively had 2 mums. I had my Irish mum, who was very much like a country girl, and then I had my sister who grew up in London, who was worldly wise, could drive, she was fashionable, and I really loved her, really loved her. But when I got engaged and then married, it changed our dynamic. I think she kind of lost her place with me. I didn't run to her for advice. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? I've got this issue with school work. And she lost her place. And she was also quite sort of unhappy about being so far away from mum. Whereas I had everything on my doorstep. Life was very good for a long time for me. I had my marriage and I had 2 sons. And I could go and see my mum whenever I wanted, and my dad would come and stay with me. And we had enjoyed family life for a long time, for a very long time. My mum got ill. She got very ill. And she passed away in 2004. My elder sister had come over from America. Obviously, she knew mum was sick and spent some time with her in the hospital and everything, and at home. We didn't know my mum was going to die. And then she went back to America, and literally the day after she got back home, my mum passed, and I'd been with my mum all of that day. I had gone home that evening, got a call from the hospital. They said, your mum is very sick. And I phoned my dad. I remember saying to him, I think she's going to die. She's very ill. Can you come with me? And he said, what do you want me to do? Which I found a really strange question. I just wanted his presence as well as my husband. I found it just a bizarre thing to say to me. I think he just didn't know what to say or do. Anyway, mum died and she was only 75, and things became more strained between me and my elder sister. One, I think because I happened to be there. I think she was just cross that she'd left and mum had passed and she missed that time. That happened. Then my dad was around for another 5 years. My dad that brought me up was actually 5 years older than my mother. So it was kind of the wrong way round, if you like. I think in both of their heads, he would die first, and then my mum would be left to tell her story if she was ever going to do that. I feel that that's possibly the case. So my dad died in 2008. I was very close to him. I loved him a lot. We were very, very close, me and him. My younger sister was a little bit dysfunctional and a little bit off the radar at times. I don't want to get too much into sibling dynamics, but she caused them both a bit of worry. I was quite stable, as was the older sister, but I was stable. I was a bit more steady. So Dad passed away. My sister in America came back for his funeral, which I found unnerved me very, very much, because I couldn't understand why, when she didn't come back for Mum's funeral, why she was coming back for his. And I knew that he wasn't her dad. I did grow up knowing that. I grew up knowing that. I knew she was older than me and everything. So she came back for his funeral. Obviously, that's not her biological dad, and I knew that. And as I say, her presence unnerved me that she was coming. And I don't know, I wouldn't call it a gut feeling, but we hadn't got on for a long time, and I knew it might be turbulent if she came back. And I also was not close to my younger sister. I just was not close to her. We were all very different in character. So she came back and we had the funeral. She was here in England for 1 week. She started to contact my husband at his workplace and ask him if I was free for lunch. That kind of tells you our communication skill set, really. She would message me and ask me, and I thought, yeah, I might go. I might meet you both. I kind of didn't really absorb it, but the insistence to meet me was starting to frighten me, and I couldn't understand why. I met her the night, both sisters, in my mother's house. I went in the evening to meet them. And strangely enough, Lily, I opened the whole can of worms by one question. And that was, I wonder why Mum moved from North London to Southwest London. I wonder why she did that. And that was the opener for her to tell me. She actually became very tearful at that. She started to cry. And I literally couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why she was crying. And then she just said, he was not your father. He was not your dad. The funeral had been 6 days before. And I'm 43, and I've come to meet her before she goes back to America, and she told me, and as everyone knows, that bombshell, it just leaves you completely numb. I literally could not believe my ears. I could not believe what she just said. And I felt that her and my younger sister both knew, and they were waiting to tell me. So I went home, shell-shocked. I like talking. I didn't speak properly for about 3 days. I just sat in absolute shock and replaying conversations and scenes of situations, and just couldn't get my head around it. She actually called me the next morning to speak to me and said, I'm sure you've got lots of questions. I was just literally too stunned to speak to her. I couldn't hear her voice. I just couldn't speak. Myself and my husband did phone my father's oldest friend of 50 years. Was it true? And he said, yes, it was. And that's when I knew. I'm actually getting goosebumps now because I'm remembering those moments. So that was that. She told me 3 things that night about my biological father, and 2 of those were wrong. Basically, what his name was, that was correct. What part of Ireland he was in was wrong and what he did for a living. Kind of right. It's to do with the building sort of industry. So I spent quite a few months searching in the wrong place. The internet in 2008 wasn't what it is today. I spent a lot of time trying to look. I felt I was on a journey by myself, like everybody does. This is so personal to you. However much you explain this to friends and family, no one can really get this unless it's happened to you. It really is, it just strikes you in the heart so badly. And I spent a long time looking. It damaged my marriage. It broke my marriage, in fact. And life was very hard and unhappy for a couple of years I felt lost and lost myself, my identity. I lost everything. But then in 2020 in lockdown, this has been a good few years now. Actually, it was 2019 towards the end of 2019, I started to think, I'm going to start looking for him. I feel ready. I'm going to start trying to find him. And somebody suggested do DNA ancestry, which I did. I then got connections. I then joined NPE Facebook groups, and a beautiful person, search angel, said, I'll help you. Tell me your story. Tell me the names you know, the areas of Ireland, and I'll do what I can. And she did. I got connections. I started matching with distant cousins. She found a family. It's my grandmother's sisters. That's right. Her family were one of 19. I think I have that right. I know that number. It's 19. And she said, there's a big group in this family. The family, a lot went to America. The ones that stayed behind, that's where you're from. So through, I'd say, good year, we whittled it down and down and down. And she said, basically, you need to find a first cousin who's willing to match with you, because I know that that's the family you're from. She said 99%. And I found a cousin who matched with me last year. So it's only been a year, 1 year. I spoke to her on the phone initially, and I sounded like a crazy person, explaining my story to her in the briefest of terms. And she gave me that chance. She was just wonderful. I can't even tell you how nice this lady, my cousin, is, and how much love I feel for her, and how much time she gave me, and how kind she is, and told me that my father, who had passed away when he was only 61, it was the year before I'd got married, was a lovely, kind, quiet man. He had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And one of the sisters was her own mother, who's still alive. And I have another aunt who's 89, who's still alive. I went to meet them all last September on my own. I just got the plane, and I knew I'd be fine. I knew I'd be safe. I was walking into this family by myself 30 years after he passed away. And I was a big shock and a big surprise. And I went, and this family have embraced me, loved me, look after me. I feel whatever I lost, I have gained so much. And we had like a tea party. We went to a church service because it was the anniversary of my dad's passing. And my cousin arranged for all the cousins to come and meet me, and we had tea and cake. She asked everybody to write down something that they remembered about my father, and they all wrote a little piece of paper, something funny about him, something about he was always dressed smart, all these little snippets that I've ached to know for absolutely years. What was he like? And I found all this out. Also, my middle name is Michaela, and his name was Michael. And that's what my mother gave me. My mother gave me his name. My mother went through so much by keeping me. My mother gave her son away to her sister temporarily because she was expecting his child, Michael's child, and she could so easily have just given me away. She could have put me up for adoption or anything, but she wanted to keep me. And I also found out that one of the cousins actually told me at that reunion last September that a Valentine card used to arrive every year to him from England, and that can only ever be my mother. So I started to feel, my God, I'm like a real love child. I never thought of myself as special when all of this happened. I lost touch with my two sisters I grew up with. When my dad died, who I thought was my dad, it all disintegrated over money and different issues, and things got very ugly. And I lost them. They're not in my life anymore. Like, they hurt me. I wanted to feel loved and still their sister, but I didn't feel that. And I've lost them, but I've gained other people. I found my roots. I found my father. And I believe to this day that he died because he kept all his truth inside his body. He kept everything in and didn't want to share. He didn't want to tell his family. He never met anyone. He never married and moved on. He lived with his brother and his wife and their family. And he was very well loved and liked. And it's very, very, very sad for me that I never got to meet him. And I could feel very angry about a lot of things. You know, if life had been different, if my mum had met him first, if this was like that, if, you know, you can't undo what's happened. You have to just accept what's happened. And I just feel very complete now that I found all that. I found everything out about him. And I'm lucky. But I always think, how did I get through those years and years of living with not knowing? I don't know how. I don't even know how. I feel like almost another person. I feel like somebody else sometimes, because I think, I don't know how I did that. I don't know how I got through. And my heart absolutely aches for people when I see their first story, their first finding out, how shocking it is for them, how hurtful, how hard it is. You know, I'd love to be able to help people. I'll be honest. I would love to help people express themselves. If that was through art or poetry or some medium, because these feelings, you're walking around with them every day, and you have to act like life is normal, and it's not. When that happens to you, you don't feel like you used to feel. You feel a completely different person. And that's my thought, would be to try and help people. I don't have the resources. I'd love to get a huge warehouse and have like 3 areas: the beginning, when you first find out, the middle bit, when you're halfway through and you've come to accept it, and then an end bit. That's where I'd be in the end one. Like, to try and talk to people about those initial feelings. I'm not a counsellor. I can't advise, but I can understand and I can empathise. And I just think it would be great if people could either have a room they could just dance like crazy in, or do paintings, to get all these feelings that are inside you out of your body. That's how I feel, really. That's how I feel about this situation.
It sounds like you are in that third part of the warehouse.
Oh, yeah. I'm there. I'm there. And I feel strong. You know, I feel strong.
Your family that has embraced you, they speak so highly of your biological father, and it sounds like he was, you know, this kind man. is he the man that your mother was first married to, the first
No,
husband? Okay.
no. She left her first husband. He died when I was a teenager. He didn't have any contact with his children. No, that's not him. So she left that marriage
And
because she'd
then
met my dad and she was pregnant with me and she wanted to sort of run away or hide.
I wonder why they didn't. Um,
Stay together? No,
yeah.
he was from a strict Irish Catholic family himself. So to meet a woman who was married, two children, and then a third that would be his on the way, I think was just too much for him. His family, they were really, really close, and I don't think they would have accepted that. That's what I think. That's kind of what I've been told. They said one of his
Yeah.
sisters would have just lynched him.
Does he know? Did he know you existed? That she was
I,
pregnant with you?
I believe so. The sister in America told me that he did set up home for my mother, so he must have known. He must have known.
Do you think he ever told anyone else, maybe a close friend or a family member, that she
Um,
was pregnant with you?
I do. I think he told one sister, the sister that there was a sister that had come to live with him in London. They came over together, and I feel she was aware. I feel she was aware.
And he
But
never had children. He had you.
he only had me. He
Yeah.
never moved on. He never. That was in your searching. When you're searching, that's when you have to be so. That's what's so scary. You're going to upset another family because someone has to know about you. You want to tell,
Yeah.
but I didn't have that. Obviously, he passed away. Everyone's situation sort of branches off into different areas depending on the circumstances.
Your older sister,
Yeah,
and um, she has a full sibling, a brother. Did
that's right.
you? That's your brother as well. Well, your
Yes,
apparently your half brother.
yeah,
Did do you? Is he in your life? Did he ever
yes,
come
he
back?
is. Yes, he
Okay.
is. He actually he met kind of his soulmate, and they've had three children. I am very close to his wife, and me and his wife are the two people that sat and kind of pieced things together, because obviously she knows his aunt that brought him up as his mum, so she knows her very well. And she's found letters, let's say, and things that well, my mum asking, "Can you meet me?" And I don't want to put my children in care. She found that, so we worked that out. We kind of had to work backwards.
Mm.
So they did meet, and I was born in January, and she probably met her sister in like the winter, and she would have covered herself up, and we've kind of had to piece all that together.
And did your brother, was he an NPE only? Did he know he was raised by his aunt, who I
That's
guess turned
it.
into a mother figure?
Yes, yes.
Does he know that was
He knew. Yeah, he knew. He knew.
okay?
His story for his side is that he didn't know he had siblings till he was about 16. So we kind of pounced on him. I think I was about 12, and my younger sister and my older sister wanted to go and see him, and we just with my mother, and we all travelled up this one day to go and see him, and he was pretty stunned. You know, his relationship with my mother was very bad. He grew up, feeling rejected. I can understand that. I carried a lot of guilt over that. I felt because of me, his circumstances changed.
Mm.
I felt guilty for that.
There's so much secrecy around,
Yeah,
you and also your brother's
yeah,
birth.
yeah,
Yeah, your mother. They really did keep their
yeah,
secrets back
yeah,
then, didn't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like when I asked her, I recalled it back to my head when I was in America looking for my dad. And she was so able to keep that down. I completely, she really handled that like, oh, he must be out, don't worry. no, she was very good at covering that. That's what I'd say. And I remember thinking, wow, that means you can keep a secret when I found all this out, you know?
Yeah.
She was able to hold it back. But obviously, my older sister knew.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a bit of a power thing between those two because I think I genuinely feel my mother was worried or frightened that it would come out. This would come out.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah, your sister remembered her 3.5-year-old brother.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do it. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and if I
Oh, yeah,
gave up one of her siblings, she would
yeah,
it'd be
definitely
very,
no.
yes.
She would
And
know. Yeah, they're not particularly close. You know, they had very different upbringings. You know, there's all those dynamics. What if he'd been a girl? You know, would she have kept him? I don't know. I don't know. You know, my aunt didn't have children, so it was a very nice thing. I've got this toddler, but they kind of made a real mess. You know, they didn't adopt him. He kind of didn't have their surname. You know, there was a lot of hard things for him, a lot of hard things for him to overcome.
that is so
Right.
confusing to go. You think you're raised with a three girls, but
Yeah,
actually there's four of you from three different fathers.
yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And he was angry. He lived on his own with his aunt and uncle in the middle of England, where kind of not a lot happens. You know, there's us living and growing up in London. So he felt very aggrieved and very angry, and quite rightly,
Yeah.
very upset. He was very upset. I've got these, you know, growing up with people is bonding. You know, we'd lost that. We lost that. We'd have a different relationship today. I think, you know, we'd be closer. It'd be different. We'd have memories and times together. And you can't
Mm.
recreate that as adults, you know, when you meet. It's different.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's
it's
very, you don't
different.
have that childhood bond.
No. So I think, you know, he felt very aggrieved and very angry with my mother, very, very angry. And yeah, how she kept that, I'll never know. I'll never know how she kept that. She actually named me after the doctor that delivered me. So she gave me two very strange names. My names,
Wow.
you know, are from my sort of being born around that time.
And your birth certificate father, who
Yeah,
you called dad,
yeah,
he he raised you as his own.
he
Do you
did.
think he ever told anyone that you weren't biologically his?
Yes, his friend who we
Oh, yes.
phoned to confirm. Yeah,
Yep,
there was
that's true.
actually Lily. There was actually a neighbour who literally lived about 10 doors away from us, who had a similar situation to my mum. So she had a husband and a son, and then she had a child outside the marriage. But that child was raised as though it was her husband's.
Hmm.
So she knew, and my dad that raised me knew that she knew.
Mm.
I know that now as an adult because I asked her and she told me that she knew when my mum passed. She told me that they were going to tell me when I got married, and then it was never spoken about again.
Oh,
So, you know,
that,
I kind of would like to have known,
oh,
but
yeah.
I kind of really would like to have known. But yeah, I was very cross. I think my mum, I spoke to a friend of my mother's who's passed since, who knew my mum as a teenager. And she did tell me that around the time I was born, my mum kind of disappeared for 2 years. She just disappeared. And that was when she moved areas and brought me up. And she was with my dad. It was just a convenient relationship. It wasn't really a love thing. I think it
Mm.
was security and convenience. He got an instant family, and then they had a family. They had a child. Who he used to tell me that wasn't a plan. That wasn't in the plan to have her. He did used to tell me that.
Mm. And to find out you're an NPE 6 days after your dad dies from your
Yeah,
sister, that is incredibly traumatic.
yeah. But she left me. She just left it. she left me in the wilderness, and I feel that she sat for a long time waiting to tell me. She sat all her life waiting for that moment. That's how I felt, because I was kind of cast out. I didn't get any. I wanted little cards that would say, I'm still your sister, I still love you, but I didn't get anything, and it hurt me very, very much. And I just, you can't have people in your life that have destroyed you like that. She caused a lot of damage. It was something she was sitting with for a long time, and it was obviously a burden. But there's a way and there's a time, and the aftercare. And she didn't manage that at all well.
Yeah, the aftercare. How about checking in? How are you doing? How are you? Are you okay? How are you processing this? I didn't get that from my parents and my sibling, and no one ever checked. You find this life-changing information like you did, and then you're just left to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, that's it. I've told you now. That's my burden undone. She actually said that night, I can't go to my grave without telling you this. But she left me with such scant information that transformed my life,
And Simone, I know you had said you want to be helpful to others. And first of all, you're very helpful in just sharing your story, because people will nod along with this. This is our community of nodding heads. But I know sometimes I get emails and people like to reach out to those that have shared their story. Could people contact you?
Yes, most definitely. I'm quite happy for anyone to contact me. I'm quite happy to do that.
What would be the best way for them to contact you?
I'll give you my email address, which is Barrett, which is BARRETT .Simone, SIMONE @yahoo.com. And I'd love to hear from anyone. I'd be quite happy to share more or listen to someone else's story. And it's such a relatable situation, sadly for us, but it is. It's relatable.
And more people are knowing an NPE in their life every day, the more tests that are being taken.
Yeah.
Thank you, Simone, so much for sharing your story today, this evening in your part of the world. And I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you for allowing me this platform, Lily, and all that you do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
These stories are here for us to identify with. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come heal with us.